it's hard to get away from 5 turnovers. It's hard to, really debate any other reason you lose a game. In fact, I think it was astounding. It was as close as it was, given the fact that they were turning the ball over like crazy, and apparently, and I didn't realize this until later, that the New Orleans Saints had the ball they ran 22 plays in the fourth quarter in Bears territory. That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and it's a credit to the Bears defense, right, that they held up. Obviously, the Saints missed a field goal also. I think the Bears defense got off the field on a 4th and 1, which wasn't, the greatest effort I ever saw by a quarterback on a quarterback sneak. But the Chicago Bears defense does stand up. I mean, they continue, guys, against the run to do an amazing job. If anybody really enjoys this kind of stuff, just watch Andrew Billings during a Bears game. The guy is having one hell of a year. He's dominating in the middle of lines. He reminds me of a guy I used to go against, Pat Williams, up there in Minnesota. Of course, I didn't like him very much when I played against him, but it's probably because he was just so damn good. And Billings reminds me of that kind of guy in the middle of the Bears defense. But those turnovers just really hurt the Bears, obviously on the road. Mully, as you pointed out many a times, the Bears hadn't won there since 1855.
So Olin, there's a lot we don't know about Justin Fields and his thumb injury, but what we do, or what we've seen of him throwing at practice, and the situation at quarterback. What's reasonable to expect this week? What do you expect this week to hear about the Bears in the quarterback position?
I really, truly expect to see Justin Fields back on the field Thursday night, right? I mean, he threw on, I think it was Friday. He came out and threw the ball. I know he said he was wearing a glove on his hand, and it was the first time he threw the ball. It felt like forever. But the Chicago Bears, I'm sure, want to see Justin Fields back out there, see what, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, right, David? Because it's like everyone keeps talking about, like, we don't know what we have at quarterback. We know exactly what we have right now at quarterback. It's just, do we know if you put him in just a college-style offense? By that I mean college-style concepts, right? Have a quarterback run the ball, quarterback runs, zone reads. We saw some of that, those concepts last night from Bagen't. We know the Bears have it in their offense, but Coach Getty does like to go back to his empty formation, spread the field, stagnant formations, not a lot of motions, not a lot of moving around by the receivers. Just a quarterback reading what he has and trying to beat the defense with his arm from the pocket is what Coach Getty likes to do. He even did it to Bagen't yesterday in the fourth quarter when he probably shouldn't have, right? It was just too much for a young quarterback to try to beat that defense in empty. That defense looked like they went to a little bit more of a must rush, keep Bagen't in the pocket, drop 7 or 8 guys in coverage, and make him beat you with his arm. And it didn't happen. And teams do that also to Justin Fields. And Coach Getty has to come up with a little better plan, I think, in the fourth quarter. But that goes to the bigger point, David, when I say those things. That means your quarterback is limited. That means your quarterback is not going to beat teams. We watched a few games last night, right? We watched the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and we watched the Bengals and the Bills. And that's what it looks like, right? That's what it looks like when you're trying to get a quarterback who is a multiplier.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a strange game yesterday, a very weird game, and I don't know any team that can win with a -5 turnover difference. Olin, have you ever been on a team that won in such a fashion? I just don't know that you can win in the NFL if you're making that many mistakes, and it is extraordinary that they were within a touchdown.
I've been on teams that won because of that fashion, right? We did a lot of that with Peanut Tillman, and obviously we had a great punt returner, kick returner in Devin Hester, and won a lot of, even back in 2001 when Greg Blotch had a great defense here. I think they gave up under 12 points a game. Very good defense. Same way we would win the game, run the ball, get takeaways, and then the defense would hold them to low points. So I've been on teams like that take the ball away. Dan Pompei told me and you in the pregame show, Mully, that this is what this Saints defense was really, really good at. I'm sure if Dan Pompei knew that, I'm sure Coach Eberflus was preaching that to his team, that we can't have takeaways here. And sure enough, it rears its head, whether it be DJ Moore's fumble or the interceptions. It just was not – you just knew that if the Bears did that, they weren't going to go to New Orleans and beat this team on the road.
Olin, I know you may have covered this in the pregame show on Sunday, but for people who might not have heard you address the Montez Sweat commitment, the financial commitment that represents for the Bears $98 million, 74 of it guaranteed. The Bears get their guy. They made the trade, and Ryan Poles now has identified him as a building block. That salary, those guarantees come with expectations, and certainly he's not a double-digit sack guy, but I think a lot of people, like myself included, would think that's money well spent. That's an investment you have to make at this stage of your growth. What did you think of the move, the trade, and then the subsequent contract extension on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, right? We talked about the move and the trade and whether you liked it or not, and were they going to get the contract extension done, which was critical to that trade being a good trade. And Ryan Poles was confident that he could get it done, and he did. So credit goes to the Chicago Bears. I think they needed a guy like Montez Sweat, right? They gave up a lot for him. I think they need a guy like that in that defense. We talked about on the pregame show. Manley mentioned that Spiegel has mentioned it, that it reminds you of when Lovey went out and got Adewale Ogunleye from the Dolphins, right? It reminds you of that kind of trade where they got to go get a guy who can make a difference. And I'll tell you this, it was 3rd and 8 after the DJ Moore fumble, right before the Saints hit their 55-yard field goal. And you could tell the Bears were playing zone coverage. And before, when I used to watch that, David, I'd be like, oh, man, like, where are we going to get our pass rush from, right? And then all of a sudden, my eyes went to Montez Sweat. I forgot we had Montez Sweat for $24 million a year. And I was like, this guy's got to do something. And that's the exact play. He hits Derek Carr's arm and they get off the field. And I guarantee you this, Coach Eberflus even took a big sigh on the sideline, right? It was the first time that you saw. And on the top side, Mully, we talked about a game between DeMarcus Walker and Yannick Ngakoue. And even they were about to get to the quarterback. So is that the moment things changed for Coach Eberflus on the sideline? And he thought to himself, thank goodness, man, I can finally play coverage on 3rd down, even with Tremaine Edmonds and Brisker out. I don't have to blitz guys. And a defensive lineman, actually, I gotta say, it's probably the first time this year that a D lineman got there in time before the 3-second mark. And he hit that quarterback's hand. So is that the moment things changed? David, if things like that keep happening for Montez Sweat, if he teaches Dexter and he gets those guys playing at a higher level, Pickens, and he gets those guys to come along with him and to get him a 3 technique, then yes, that is money well spent.
I don't remember if I saw it in the game, but I think on the pregame you suggested DeMarcus Walker moving inside and kind of moving into that 3 technique role in some passing situations. I think Flusy should feel he should feel free to sort of experiment a little bit with this thing because, you know, look at where they're at. They're 2-7. You can't say they're 2-2 anymore. I think that he could have some fun maybe moving forward with trying to move guys around and trying to see how best to use Sweat.
Yeah. Does he know you call him Flusy?
Well, that's his name. I mean, I've always loved a good Flusy, Olin.
They did move guys around yesterday. They even had Javon Dexter out at defensive end, and it didn't look great, but maybe he can learn out there how to get better and better. So they did move their defensive line around a lot yesterday. Very interested if they can get this defense healthy. Do you guys remember when Taysom Hill took off and Montez Sweat, I think he runs like a 4-4 or 4-5, chased him down from the backside, right? When you talk about multipliers, when you talk about difference makers, when you talk about guys that they go in the first round, they develop their game, and you give a lot of money for. Those are the kind of plays you want to see guys make. And that's what you're waiting for on the offensive side of the ball, right? We talked about yesterday on the pregame show. History keeps repeating itself around here, right? Whether it be Adewale Ogunleye, whether it be Julius Peppers, whether it be Montez Sweat, right? They keep getting these difference makers, these multipliers on offense now. They got to get somebody in a critical position in one of these, left tackle, quarterback, somebody out there who can make everybody around them better. I know we went for it one time with Jay Cutler, actually got to the NFC Championship game with Jay Cutler. But the guys who you trade for, you bring in, you pay them a lot of money, and you expected them to make a difference. Eventually here in Chicago, in Illinois, you'd like to see them draft guys like that.
So Tyson Bagen't for 3 quarters, I thought, handled the crowd noise with a lot of poise. He made some good decisions. He had the 1 turnover, but he showed resilience in bouncing back. And then the 4th quarter happened and the bottom fell out. Why do you think that happened? What was his biggest mistake? And do you think that the atmosphere contributed at all to his loss of composure?
I think that he was trying to make plays, right? I think that he was just trusting his arm a little too much, going to guys like Tyler Scott. I know he came back to Cole Kmet late on that first interception. The New Orleans Saints changed their plan, guys. Remember, he was beating them with his feet early in the game, and they were man coverage, and they were leaving him to run the ball. All of a sudden, they're treating him like Justin Fields. Keep him in the pocket, run some zone, keep everything in front of them, and all eyes on the quarterback. And that's why you see it looked like he had so much time in the pocket. Now, the Bears' offensive line did a great job, David. I think it's twofold. I think two things happened. I think he trusted his arm a little too much, going to guys like Tyler Scott over the middle. Didn't make a good throw there. Wasn't accurate in the NFL. You got to be accurate if you're going to go the ball over the middle. And then I think Getty didn't do him any favors, right? I think that if you think about the first interception, right, you're throwing a screen of Velus Jones, Mully's guy. Mully's the MVP of the team this year. You're throwing a screen to Velus Jones with DJ Moore blocking, right? And then you're going to throw the ball, and then they ran left a lot, and they just came out of these spread, stagnant formations. I thought, guys, if I'm up in the booth, I'm whispering in the headset to Coach Getty, hey, Coach, we're really dominating the right side of that line. Why don't we just run behind Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright right now? We're only down 7, right? We don't got to push the ball down the field. We're down, Tevin Jenkins, man, I mean, what a game that young man played yesterday. Continue to be excited to watch him and Darnell Wright develop there. I don't know. I got to go back, David, and chart it. But I don't know how much from the mid-third quarter on we actually ran behind those two guys. And I thought that was our biggest advantage at that point of the game. It wasn't Bagen't and his right arm. It was Tevin Jenkins, Darnell Wright, Mercedes Lewis, Deontay Foreman, and the right side of that line.
Yeah, that's something to take a look at. What did you make of Braxton Jones? And I noticed he was out at the end of the game. Did he hold up okay? And I don't know if you saw it or not, but Brad Biggs in his 10 Thoughts made an interesting point. He said that he believes Braxton Jones' performance is going to be a big part of the Bears draft equation, that if he closes the year and plays well, then they're not going to have to draft a left tackle, or they won't have to make that a priority with one of their top picks.
Yeah, and he's got to be healthy, right? I thought he played well up until a certain point, and maybe the neck gave him some problems again, or his legs were he just wasn't in game shape, right? He missed a few blocks, and then you didn't see him again. So I didn't know if it was his neck or maybe just his conditioning. As far as that offensive line, I thought they played well, right? Besides the penalties, right? Besides the penalties that they had, whether it be the false starts, whether it be the 3 or 4 holding calls. I think there's 2 on Darnell Wright, 1 on Lucas Patrick, couple false starts in there. We got to get rid of those, right? We're not a good enough offense to overcome penalties, especially holding. Those 10-yard penalties are killers. But as far as whether he's a left tackle of the future or not, that is another thing we did this, as you guys know, in the NFL, like, what are we talking about? Now it's not so mysterious, right? Why we're not winning games. What are the 2 positions that are critical? Everyone talks about on an offense in the NFL. Left tackle and quarterback. What are the 2 positions you guys are talking about this morning they got to look for in the NFL draft? Left tackle and quarterback. Mully, just as long as the Bears hadn't won in New Orleans, that's how long we've been talking about left tackle and quarterback in Chicago.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
True.
So, Olin, last week I think Ryan Poles began kind of this refrain about the Bears don't fold under Matt Eberflus, and he gave him a vote of confidence that was very public and very loud. And then I think after yesterday, when the Bears play the Saints very close and their defense plays as well as the defense did, you're going to hear that again this week. Well, the Bears, they don't fold, and he's got them playing hard. I don't know how much that matters. I know you have been in those locker rooms, and certainly with your experience, you're a better gauge of this and better source to ask this than anybody else. How much credit do you give the Bears for not folding in a 2-7 season?
Yeah, I mean, your first reaction is, man, they played better than I thought, right? But you want to be careful in an NFL building, in an NFL city. I don't think Coach Flus would want me to lower the standards for what it's all about there, right? You're 11-32 right now in the last 3 years, right? So you've done a lot of losing. So now we've lowered the standards. Now we're just looking at, are you fighting or not? And you got to be careful doing that, because then you never get back to winning, right? So no, it's not good enough. No, you didn't win the game. No, just looking like you're giving effort. which is the bare minimum, right? Just looking like you're giving effort is just not enough in an NFL building. So they did come out, and my first reaction was, man, they did a lot with everything they went through during the week, whether it be Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, the coaches getting fired, all the stuff going on around them. And for this year, your first reaction is, well, they still are playing hard out there. But you know, I had a coach tell me one time, once you lower the standard, it's gone.
Yeah, I'm curious when you think about the quick turnaround in the game on Thursday. I guess the Bears opened as a 3-point favorite.
Hey.
Yeah, here you go. We rarely hear that information, and we know that Carolina. We know that Bryce Young threw 2 pick sixes yesterday, and we actually talked a little bit about the comparison between that performance and, of course, what's going on with C.J. Stroud. But with a quick turnaround, you know, we're talking about hopefully Fields being back. What are your thoughts on this kind of a game, which again is very determinant in terms of the top draft pick?
Yeah, it's again, we're just watching players develop on both sides of the ball, right? We're in that mode right now. It's almost preseason for us in Chicago who are analyzing these games and trying to find guys who are developing or playing good football. It's Carolina versus the Bears, 2 bad teams. You know, it's a battle for who has the higher draft pick, it seems like, to who our young quarterback, obviously there in Carolina, right? And then we have our quarterback here, our quarterback problems here. And it's just kind of a game you're watching. Might be just only us watching, right? Illinois and Carolina watching this Thursday night game. So I don't really know what to think about this game. Interesting what's going on when you see the first 2 picks of the draft of last year. As far as Stroud and Young go, it reminds you how this is such an inexact science going on, right? And whether is it the coaching staff, is it the quarterback? You know, they got that young coordinator, Slowick, interesting name, right, down there in Houston for a guy, another young quarterback guy. Can he be a head coach? Interesting name that they got down there developing their quarterback. Is it the infrastructure around the quarterback when you look at it, or is it the quarterback? The age-old question, the one we've been trying to figure out here for years.
Olin, when you watch the Bears defense and you see them do what they did yesterday without Tremaine Edmonds, I just wonder, what is your evaluation at this stage of Jack Sanborn's career, and did the kind of game he had yesterday stand out to you?
Yeah, Sanborn played really good yesterday, right? And then he tackled well, which was their biggest problem going against the Chargers. And then he always seems to be ready. He seems to be prepared. Is he a high-level starting linebacker? I think he can be, David, if you surround him with guys that can do the things he can't do, right, which is like coverage and those kind of things. That can he hold up through 17 games at a starting linebacker position? That is what I don't know. I'm sure he puts in the work. I'm sure he trains hard when you watch his game. But his value, we talk about Larry Borum's value as a backup tackle, as he can play both guards. Sanborn's value to play special teams. They call them 4-phase type guys. These guys were crucial on our teams when I was here in Chicago. They were always good teammates, always teaching the young guys how to work, how to do their job properly. And then if someone like Tremaine Edmonds does go down, the guy who's 6'4", the guy who runs a 4.4, I can put this guy in, and it's not going to be horrible for me, right? It's not going to be a huge drop-off. He can play at starter level for a few games in a row. So he does bring value right now to the Chicago Bears. I mean, T.J. Edwards goes out. I think Sanborn comes in. When they go to their regular package in first and second down, when they put 3 linebackers on the field, I think Sanborn plays the Sam. So he plays all 3 positions for them, and then he's a terror on special teams. So he brings a lot of value, David, to the Chicago Bears. Credit to the young man for developing his game, coming out of college. I don't know how many people gave him a chance. It looks like to me now he can play in the NFL as long as he wants.
DJ Moore was targeted 5 times, and he had 3 catches for 44 yards. We know he lost a fumble, and we know that he dove for a ball but couldn't make the catch in the end zone. How do you evaluate his game, and what's it going to mean to him to go against his former team on Thursday? I would imagine they'd want to get him the ball more.
Yeah, you would hope. You would hope they'd be a little more imaginative, right? Move him around a little bit more. Maybe give him a jet sweep instead of Trent Taylor and Tyler. Maybe give him a reverse instead of Tyler Scott. Maybe have him catch the ball and have Velus Jones block for him instead of the other way around on screens. And then just kind of move the formation around a little bit more, Mully, so they can lose him a little bit, right? Maybe start him in the backfield at running back with Deontay Foreman, see how they cover him out of the backfield, see who they match up with him. And yes, we all want to, like, he's earned the right. I talked about Cole Kmet, right? They threw him 2 touchdown passes yesterday. If you turn the film on from the 3 games before and you watch the little things that Cole Kmet was doing, by that I mean sacrificing his game by blocking, chipping for tackles, doing all the little things the Bears asked him to do. They designed those 2 touchdown plays, and my guess, for Cole Kmet, because the work he's been putting in. Do that for DJ Moore, man. The guy's been doing a lot here. His game is still good, Mully, even though that fumble. Great play there by the New Orleans Saints. That guy for the Saints, I mean, I keep struggling with his name. Let's try it again. Paulson Adobo. He had a great game, right? That's amazing. Yeah. That's a career game he did, right? 2 interceptions, a fumble. I think he had 8 or 9 tackles. The guy played a good football game, but DJ Moore, he caught one on the sideline, did the same thing he does, right? Made a guy miss, spun around, gained about 5 or 6 more yards. Great football player. Coach Getty, I thought after the first game, I thought Bagen't said, I'm going to throw the ball to him no matter what. I guess he forgot about all that. We've gone away from him a little bit. Let's try to get him the ball again.